Grounded is one of my favorite survival games out there, and also the first game that introduced me to one of my all-time favorite accessibility options. Not only do I love playing the game, but it's also the game that I often use as an example when I do Introduction to Inclusive Design Workshop for game studios. And with the sequel Grounded 2 dropping into early access on 29th of July, it is time for us to once again shrink down and take a look at where the original game nailed it and where it dropped the ball and what I wish to see in the sequel. Hi there everyone, my name is Aravia and I'm a disabled and chronically ill gamer and accessibility consultant, and this is my new series here on YouTube before the next game Accessibility Hits and Miss. And today we're going to take a look at the incredible game that is Grounded. What is Grounded? The original game of Grounded was first released into early access back in 2020, developed by Obsidian Entertainment and published by Xbox Game Studio. The game was fully released on PC and Xbox in September of 2022, with a Nintendo Switch and PlayStation version released on April of 2024, which introduced the possibility of crossplay. Grounded's concept is easy. Inspired by the movie from 1989 Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and 1998's A Bug's Life, you play as one of the protagonists, Max, Willow, Pete or Hobbs. The story starts with you one day waking up in your backyard, quickly realizing that you have been shrunk down to the size of an ant. You then can explore the different parts of the yard, build incredible structures and fight numbers of different insects and other creepy crawlers, with the main goal of regaining your memory and getting back to your human size. Grounded is a survival game that can be both played as a single player and as an online co-op multiplayer with up to 4 players at once. It's a vastly successful game with well over 20 million players. Its success can said to have something to do with the fun gameplay and curious storyline, but it also must be said to have something to do with the developer's ability to nurture a community of gamers that is not afraid to say what they want from the start, and a development team willing to live up to those expectations of improvements. Over the years, we have seen plenty of updates to the game, and the studio has said that the input from the fandom is crucial to make a game like it is today. Quoting executive producer Marcus Morgan from this year's Xbox Game Showcase, pretty much from day one, we knew we wanted to return to the game preview for Grounded 2. Sure, it comes with some trade-offs, like the game's not done and it's out to the world, but there's so much value in building it alongside the community. Accessibility hits. And all these updates has been a source of incredible improvement of accessibility wins over the year, but the game did not come out of the woodworks without anything to show for. It was actually nominated to the Game Awards of 2020 under the category Innovation in Accessibility. And no wonder they were nominated, because they are actually the developers who introduced the industry to something that's so groundbreaking as Arachnophobia Safe Mode, which is my favorite accessibility option of all time and my first accessibility hit of this game. Arachnophobia Safe Mode in Grounded is a setting where you can slide a line from 0 to 5 to indicate how much you want a spider to look and sound like, well, a spider, while the gameplay and difficulty remains the same. 0, the spider still looks like how it would in nature, all the way up to 5, where the spider now looks more like a blob or a hovering marshmallow ball. Still scary though, just not phobia scary. Arachnophobia Safe Mode is a cognitive accessibility tool that helps people who suffer from acrophobia, which is a phobia of spiders and other arachnids. Arachnids? This word?
Arachnids.
Which, yeah, is a fear of spiders, but is also other things like scorpions. And talking about accessibility option, have you seen the option menu in this game? Not only does the game let you access the settings before the game starts, it also has its own quick button that takes you straight into the accessibility setting. Yes! And it doesn't stop there. Even inside the settings, they did a great job with everything, from good size on the text, readable font, and best of all, explanation not only for what the settings do, but also what the changes will help with. A huge win for both new players and disabled players alike. Mwah. And one of those options that I wanted to highlight in this section of this video is wider interaction. I have actually not seen this being used in a game before, nor did I know it was part of Grounded, so I was pleasantly surprised when I checked out the game this week for this video and I saw it. Wide interaction makes it so that you can interact with nearby objects even when not looking directly at them. I have now seen it been used by plenty of streamers like CohhCarnage, as this makes it quite easy to pick things up from the ground. But what I think it is made for is to reduce motion sickness in first-person mode, as you don't need to move the camera as much when it is enabled. It also helps people who have tremors or other conditions that makes fine motor skills difficulty. And it's really impressive that they have been able to make it so that even when interactable objects sit really close to each other, you can still use it without any problem. But this game does not only have a massive selection of accessibility options, there's also well thought through inclusive design due to the choice of the art style. Having this colorful, semi-cartoonish style make all the character, bugs and items pop a bit out from the background, would make them easy to see and often easy to understand. This, combined with the possibility to highlight interactable objects, makes it a good synergy of accessibility. And last but not least, I want to mention the possibility to both do text-to-speech but also speech-to-text in this game, which covers a plethora of accessibility subcategories, but most notably communication accessibility, which is sadly a category that is often overlooked in this industry. But in a game where you in multiplayer need to work together as a team, it is crucial to give accessibility to people who cannot use their voice to communicate or cannot hear when other people are trying to talk to them. This just ensures that multiplayer part of the game is accessible for everybody, something that I think is really worth highlighting, as gaming has been one of the most important tools for me when my illness has made me quite isolated and lonely. And of course, I could go on and on. There are so many well thought through accessibility options in Grounded, but this video would be like way too long. So just rest assured, I am immensely impressed over the developers' ability to continuously improving this game, especially the accessibility. Accessibility miss. And while talking about accessibility hits, we also need to take a look at the misses. And even though this game has more accessibility hits than most games out there, nothing can be 100% accessible, and that is true for Grounded as well. For starters, I think my biggest barrier with this game is the map. Every time I start a new run, I struggle a bit navigating where I am, and it's happened more than once that the map is more confusing than of any help. Also, when you get a bit further into the game, it gets harder to see what is actually of interest on the map and not. In general, it's just a bit over-cumbered. It has gotten a bit better with the updates over the years, and having the ability to push the buttons on the side to go to like different sections of the map or to make them invisible is a huge improvement. But I have to admit, it took me like embarrassing long time before I could understand that I actually could do that at all. So the map in general is a miss both for cognitive accessibility and for vision accessibility. The same could actually be said for the mutation, which is the upgrading part of the game. I never actually got any hang of it and how to use it best to support the way I was playing. So for most parts of my gameplay, I had to look up what others had done online, as the barrier to use just got too big for me. But I think the biggest mistake in Grounded 1 is how they have implemented colorblind mode. And this mistake is not uncommon to see in most games, so I'm not surprised that it is here as well. But what is the problem? Well, the way Grounded has implemented colorblind mode is that they have used filters that mimic how somebody with a colorblindness would see the game. The reason why this does not work for most people is because the filters are actually not made to be used as an accessibility. They are made so that developers who have normal color vision can see how people with colorblindness will see the game, so that they can correct any possible color problems. In other words, these filters do not help anyone. They just highlight why people need help, as they showcase how colors blend together. If you want to use filters, they need to be customizable, where the player can choose themselves what color they want to substitute. Say a player struggles to differentiate red and green. Then they can substitute one of those colors for something like purple or any other color that is easier to differentiate. I highly recommend anybody that wants to learn more about this topic, check out a talk from GDC from some years ago that the speaker Douglas Pennant talks a lot about his experience with color blindness. He shows example on how he perceives colors in-game and how games could solve these problems better. A link to that talk and my other sources will be linked in the description of this video. And last, I wanted to highlight a barrier that was so tiny but enough to make it more stressful part of this game somewhat annoying, which is the fan option, or also known as rotating wheels or radial menus. In Grounded, you use these to select weapons and the items and things to build with, and it works well when you are on a keyboard and mouse, but it can be hard on hands and for general mobility accessibility when using controller. The reason why this is a barrier for me is that I sometimes have a small tremor on my hands, and also sometimes I play the game with the controller laying flat on my desk, which just makes it harder to use the joysticks to choose anything, especially in stressful situations where my tremor gets worse, like when I'm going to change a weapon because of a monster or something like that. Luckily, in Grounded, you don't need to hold the button or joystick in the correct direction when choosing, so it's a bit easier than most of games that has this option, but it's still just harder for me to use. What would be better for accessibility would be like a menu you open with the possibility to click through the list with, for example, R1 and L1. Small changes, but it goes a long way. Wishlist for Grounded 2. So with all these hits and misses for Grounded 1, what do I wish to see in the upcoming Grounded 2? Well, of course, I wish for all of these accessibilities to still be in there, and I think they will. Maybe not now in early access, but I do believe they will be added with time and before the full release of the game. And even though Grounded 1 is still an accessible game, there are still improvements I wish to see. Some examples of that would be that the option menu, both for accessibility and the other tabs, would show more examples to see how different options would affect the gameplay when you toggle them on and off. This is already implemented with the spiders, where you can use the slider to see how Arachnophobia safe mode is affecting the spider. So I wish this would be implemented for things like text size, HUD size, subtitle background, and so on. It just makes it a lot easier to understand what each option do without you having to tap in and out of the menu a million times. And talking about Arachnophobia safe mode, this was not perfectly implemented early in Grounded 1, but it seems to have been updated during development, with every spider in the game now looking like a blob. And I think this will be more important than ever. If you have followed the news around Grounded 2, you might have seen that the game now will introduce mounts, or buggies as they call them. That means that in the new game you can ride both ants and spiders. Luckily, exclusive producer Marcus Morgan have confirmed that Arachnophobia safe mode will still work while riding the spider, and it sort of will look like you're on top of like a big beach ball when riding them. I also hope that the developers are aware that Arachnophobia also includes scorpions, which is a new type of enemy in Grounded 2, so they also need to do some sort of workaround for that bug. Another barrier I fear being present with buggies are motion sickness, as often when games introduce mounts in first person, they put on some kind of head bobbing. So I really hope they either let us just turn it off with an option, or just do not include head bobbing, as it's quite unrealistic. Because like in real life, if your brain corrects that for you, always trying to like keep your view of the world quite stable if possible. Doom: The Dark Ages did something really smart when it comes to motion sickness, which was introducing no movement of things that your character was holding as well, which I felt helped a lot with my motion sickness. So here I hope Grounded 2 takes some leaf out of Doom's book. Other than that, I really hope they take a better look at the bit more advanced accessibility tools in Grounded 1, like screen readers, and make them a bit better. Do not mistake me when I say this, they do work the way they are today, but they do not seem to have gone through proper quality control to make sure every part of the game works with it. This is quite obvious when you have it on and you talk to an NPC and the screen reader talks over the characters talking.
Sorry to pile on the bad news, my new friend.
Making it hard to hear what the NPCs are saying and therefore following along with the story of the game. But of course, I do not expect that all of the accessibility settings from the first game, nor the new ideas, to be present from the start. As the dev says, this game is being released before it's done. But how I'm looking at it is that it just gives us more opportunities to find good accessibility solutions that both fit the game's design and the player. But all in all, I have great confidence in Obsidian when it comes to the accessibility in Grounded 2. And that's it. What do you all think? Are you looking forward to the next Grounded game? And which accessibility design or option do you hope to see in the sequel? Let me know in the comment section, and remember to subscribe, and I will make a video about my views when a new game is out. So until next time, bye!